Thank you for joining us for today's Economic Summit. We hope that you're enjoying this morning, as you've heard from the many different panels that we've had. As with many of our sessions, we'd like to begin this session with presenting one of our South County Economic Development Council awards. The Tony McCune Regional Leadership Award honors the South County person that has served as a leader in integrating valuable benchmarks upon this region and has made a significant impact in South County throughout the year. This year, we are extremely honored to present this award to Supervisor Nora Vargas for her proactive and exemplary work in helping the community fight the COVID-19 pandemic. Through her efforts and dedication, multiple vaccination events were deployed throughout South County to ensure the most underserved populations had access to these vaccines. Additionally, she worked closely with manufacturing community in Otay Mesa to ensure vaccination events were delivered, maintaining operations throughout our very important supply chain. She is truly a community champion. Supervisor Vargas, congratulations.
Oh my gosh. Thank you, Monica. I am very, very humble for this recognition, and I'm proud to share it with so many people who are part of these efforts to ensure our communities are not left behind. Because if there's anything this pandemic has taught us all, is that only together are we stronger, right? It took community, labor, health, business organizations, government, all of us working together. And I see many of my colleagues are here who from day one, were there with me in making sure that recovery was possible for South County. Yesterday actually marked 1 year since my election when I ran for the seat and I won. And when I ran, I ran under this premise that building healthier and strong communities is what we were going to do. And for me, that wasn't a slogan. It really was what has really driven my work in the last 10 months. And I truly believe that in order for us to thrive in this economy, we need to have healthy and strong communities. And that means our residents have to have access to quality healthcare, live in toxic-free neighborhoods. They need to have housing and food security, have access to affordable, reliable, accessible transportation, job training, quality of life. And our youth should have access to educational and recreational opportunities beyond the classroom. So I want to say thank you. Thank you to South County DC, to my colleagues on this panel for your collaborative work. Me da muchísimo gusto desde el fondo de mi corazón trabajar con todos ustedes. We have a lot of work to do, and I am thrilled and grateful for this recognition, and I accept it on behalf of the most amazing team in the universe, my D1 Equity staff, who really works tirelessly to ensure that we get this work done. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. Muchísimo. Gracias.
Thank you, Supervisor Vargas, and definitely thank you for all you do. You're a true crusader for everyone, and we truly appreciate it. So now we'd like to kick off our elected officials panel. Thank you to all our panelists who have joined us today. This is very exciting. I'd like to go down the list and introduce each one. And as I introduce you, I will go ahead and give you a few minutes so you can give some welcoming remarks. We're going to start off with our California State Assemblywoman, Lorena Gonzalez.
Thank you, Monica, and congratulations, of course, to my supervisor. Not official, I do live with my husband, but the supervisor represents most of my district, and that's Nora Vargas. We've seen what a fighter she is, and I think it's a real example of all the elected South Bay leaders we have here today and have in general. I am so proud. I was thinking about the transition really that's happened in the South Bay and really electing people from the community who care so deeply about members of the community that we, I think, work closely together with our community leaders. All of our constituents have the kind of resources that they need, whether it be a business, a family, landlords and tenants. I think COVID has made us really look at all sides of who needs help and trying to provide that collectively. So thank you for hosting us once again. I miss the days when we were at the convention center, but I enjoy seeing these faces as usual. I see some mayors and city council members. So it's exciting to be here and exciting to continue to work together to ensure that we have the healthiest and happiest communities, I think, in California.
Thank you, Assemblywoman Gonzalez. And definitely, we do see a lot of great teamwork here in South County. Next, we would like to introduce Imperial Beach Mayor Serge Dedina.
I guess the microphone's on. Hey, good morning. Buenos dias, everybody. So I'll just cut to the chase. When I needed help during the pandemic, I knew I could pick up the phone and call my colleagues in South County, and there was an immediate response, whether it was on getting testing back in the early part of the pandemic, or obviously the amazing vaccine rollout that is actually maybe an international model. And thank you, Supervisor Vargas, and my colleague Alejandra Sotelo-Solis, the Mayor of National City, and Chula Vista Mayor Mary Salas, who really made that kind of stuff possible, along with the City of San Diego and Mayor Todd Gloria. It was a team effort. It has been the whole time. So thank you, because vaccination rates are pretty high in South County, and I really like seeing that data. Number two, when we needed help in IB about water quality, the same thing. We built a team of our South County leaders and cities, the Port of San Diego, the state of California, and we made it really clear what the plan should be, what the investment should be, and we worked with our congressional partners and our senators to make that happen. I'll make sure I include the county in there, and the city of Coronado, and we're going to see hopefully within the next week, a significant announcement on some major investment in fixing the problem on the Tijuana River Valley that includes investments on both sides of the border. And three, when our colleagues in San Ysidro and our business owners in San Ysidro and South County and our friends in Tijuana needed help to push our federal governments to get that border open, again, it was the same thing. We all got together. Someone picked up the phone and said, be at the border. Let's do a press conference. Let's make this happen. I know lots of conversations behind the scenes that I wasn't part of, but I want to thank all those who were. And I think we're going to see on November 8th that border is going to be open, at least partially the way that we needed to. And then finally, last night we approved the most historic investment in Imperial Beach in our city's history in parks and rec infrastructure, community services, and health and wellness programming and infrastructure. Of the dozens, the most residents who've ever participated in a meeting to give comments, 100% of them supported that initiative. 100%, not a single no. Everyone, it supported the entire package of investment that included nonprofits from our region and our city, and a new community center, investments in every park, basically everything to fit every age group, because what we learned in this pandemic is nothing is more important than community health and wellness and the well-being of our families. That's it. That's all that matters. And I think I am so proud to have worked with all of you to make that happen, of course, and the business component, which was so that's it from IB. We're doing good, and look forward to hearing from all of you about what's.
Thank you, Mayor Dedina. Next up, we have our National City Mayor, Alejandra Sotelo-Solis.
Buenos dias a todos. Good morning. Good morning. South Bay rocks. Hello. You know, we have powerhouse people, one on these screens here, but even those that are watching. And I think that it really speaks to the fact that when we want to push, we push to get what we need for our community. And unfortunately, at times it is met with opposition. You know, we're seen as asking for too much, when in actuality, it's what we deserve and what our taxpayers, you know, have already paid for. So basically, we were just asking for our fair share. And I think that it's a great opportunity, too, to recognize the work and the change that has happened at the county level. So congratulations to Supervisor Nora Vargas and Chair Fletcher. I mean, there's a lot of things happening and so many moving parts that without the support at the county level, at the municipality level, you know, things would be a lot slower. Let's just put it that way. But I think it really, for us as an organization within National City, we're very proud to, you know, help and show that certain programs that can be piloted or started in smaller municipalities can actually set the groundwork or be models for what can be done in bigger municipalities. And it really takes the ganas and the chutzpah of the elected officials, and not to have the fear, but also to, even if there is opposition, which I I think many of us have seen and heard the ugliness and the rhetoric, that the vitriol that can be spit at all and each and every one of us as people who choose to be in those elected official roles and be public servants. We have to be tough, but we're also human. And I think that as we have this conversation, we recognize we take the feedback. But we also too are gonna stand up, and it ain't gonna be on our watch. How about them apples? Right, Supervisor? And so I think there's a lot of things that we all have in common, and we will stand up together. So thank you for the opportunity. Look forward to hearing from my colleagues, because again, South County, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor. And next up, I'd like to introduce our Chula Vista City Council member, Andrea Cardenas.
Hi, everybody. Well, first of all, good morning, I guess afternoon maybe now. But I'm just very, very excited to be here with all of you. It's an honor to be able to talk about what Chula Vista is doing and how we've been really able to partner with all of our nearby jurisdictions and all of our different levels of government to really make sure that we're serving our community. I think everybody has touched on this, but I do want to just make sure that I'm reiterating the fact that the way that South County was managed, the way that we saw, Supervisor Vargas really take leadership in a lot of the health inequities that were happening in our southern region, that was disproportionately affected, but for many reasons. That is what happens when we elect people that are coming from the community, that have roots in the community, that understand what it is that our most vulnerable communities need, because we're listening, right? We're listening to what's happening on the ground rather than just assuming what the needs are. And something that I learned from Supervisor Vargas was always trying to meet the communities where they're at, rather than expect them to come to us, right? And I think that that's something that everybody here was very crucial in making sure that happened. And we're in a really great spot right now in South County, where a lot of our visions are aligning and a lot of our elected officials are willing to work together, which is a change from other years, right? And this is an opportunity we all have to take strongly and boldly, and support each other, and make sure that we're all really coming down to the bottom line of supporting our communities and our families.
Thank you. And, on that note of working together and the great teamwork, I think I'd like to kick it off with this question and then open it up to all of you to answer. Many people benefited greatly by the rapid response and deployment of resources throughout the pandemic. Can you share a story of success from your community where a business or individual was able to utilize a program available to grow and evolve, and even just to continue to survive with their family? And I'd love to hear on the different levels of government. We'll kick it off with Assemblywoman Gonzalez.
It would be impossible to tell one story, because I think as soon as the pandemic happened, we realized, of course, that there were going to be huge needs. So as many of you know, we spent a lot of time helping folks get their EDD checks, ensuring that people had money to spend, because really it was circular. We needed that money to spend so that restaurants could stay in business, even if it was ordering out, so that small businesses could at least have some ability to stay afloat as people had money to spend. So we focused so much of our attention on ensuring that people, as they were facing enormous barriers to getting their unemployment checks, could try to do so as soon as possible. And because we had unique situations, a lot of non-English speakers, a lot of people with names. We always think like the Latino population, but we have a lot of refugees too. So we have a lot of names that are untraditional and sometimes not in the same order as government records. So we spent a lot of time helping people get their ID correct, ensuring that they had money in their pocket. And I think it really did provide that quick resource that allowed some of our businesses to stay afloat, because we knew if it wasn't going to just be people were going to be impoverished. That was big enough problem, right? But that if they're impoverished, they're not buying food, they're not paying for basic expenses, that we needed that money to circulate into the economy and continue to circulate into the economy during the pandemic. So there are thousands. We literally helped over 6,000 of our constituents get their EDD checks and ensure that they stayed afloat during the pandemic. And it was the entryway, to be honest, as well. What we saw is when people came to us to help solve a state issue, we were able to hook them up with housing issues. We were able to hook them up with vaccinations when they became available, testing prior to that. We dealt with a lot of immigration issues out of the boat. And thanks to our Congressman Juan Vargas, we were able to work closely with his office in sending immigration issues there. So really, we became an entryway through EDD of working with each of the cities on their rental relief, all these different programs, but it helped that we had those relationships and that other offices were willing to help once we took them in. It was almost like a triage of opportunity to keep people afloat. So pretty proud of that work and our continued work. It really, I think too, the other thing that gave us the opportunity to do, and we know this, so many of our constituents haven't had that interface with government, right? They have interfaced with government offices more in the last year and a half than they ever did for a variety of reasons. Fear, not understanding where to go, how to go, not understanding that we have, culturally and linguistically capable staff that can help them. And it really gave them that opportunity to learn what we have to provide. And I think it really made our community stronger.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. And your office really needs to be commended for all your work with EDD during the pandemic. You were out through social media, through just all these different venues. Everybody kind of knew that if you needed help with that, you go to Assemblywoman Gonzalez's office. So I know that you were probably helping a lot of different districts, not just your own. And thank you for that. Can we hear from some of the cities?
Sure, I'll share. So I think at the onset, it was about access to PPE. And there was a lot of fear, like, oh my gosh, we're not going to have enough face masks, or what are our small businesses going to do? So in partnership with Last Mile San Diego, we were able to give out thousands of face masks to our communities at large, but also to really focus on the restaurants and the grocery store workers. And, I didn't, you think about it, everybody, was making and getting creative with the bandanas and the ligas and, thinking about ways to do that. But if you're a food handler or you're somebody who's considered an essential worker, you want them to have the best quality of PPE. So it was through the Last Mile San Diego that we were able to work through and get that PPE to them. But also too, it was in partnership with South County EDC that we got over $200,000 from our initial investment from the federal government to get out smaller grants to help our small businesses. And we were able to help close to 30 businesses, between $5,000 and $10,000 to keep them afloat right at the onset of the pandemic. And I think, as we talk about our roles as elected officials, it's yes, that infrastructure and the connection, but it's also to the food and belly, a roof overhead. So getting the word out consistently about where people could find the resources. Not everybody has access to the internet, and good internet for that matter. So we're like, oh, just register online and, sign up for this assistance. Sometimes it takes a phone number or a person to, be socially distanced and help fill out a piece of paper. So it's through city staff and in partnership with other nonprofits and even the philanthropic community to support these efforts that the city of National City had partnership with Miracle Babies, and they're still doing it here. Over 800 families get 2 packs of diapers every other month. And I have a feeling Assemblymember Gonzalez has, some footing in that where these diapers come from. And I think that, when we're talking about roof overhead, food and belly, it's also to the diapers for the babies. So we see a need. We're going to try to build that conduit to make it as seamless as possible. And I think as we talk about that, and I know it's one of the questions later, so I won't go too far into it, It's how we as bureaucrats can help streamline the process. So it doesn't cost money to get a permit to give food away. Or if you're gonna have to close a street and you're gonna have PD roll by, or, you know, certain things that can help not cost the nonprofit or the business resources that they need so desperately to invest in their community and in their own business.
Thank you.
I want to add something very quickly. And I think what Assemblymember Gonzalez just said about, we really were all operating like triages, right? Like I was getting people that were like, these are all of our issues. And it's like, okay, well, hold on, let me send this over to this office, this over to that office. And again, it's all about the collaboration that we were all able to kind of have. I had people reaching out to our office from San Diego, from District A, right? Or from National City, and all of these different things really needed to come into play. And everybody just kind of went on like go mode the moment that we realized like it's just, we need to all hands on deck. And you know, we emailed Assemblymember Gonzalez's office so many times that like it was just also muscle memory at one point, because they were taking in so many of these EDD cases. And absolutely right, when we're talking about, you know, housing and how all of that contributed to the big picture of what was happening in our community. The COVID testing appointments and vaccine appointments, what Mayor Sotelo-Solis mentioned is super accurate, especially in a district like mine, where people are still more comfortable calling on the phone. I mean, I know this. My mom won't go online and pay her light bill, right? Like she'll call and she'll pay it that way. She doesn't care if she's paying the extra $2. But that is how our community is, right? And so with that understanding, our city staff did a magnificent job. Like I can never thank them enough. They all turned into a call center, right? To kind of help people schedule appointments. And there was so many people that that's how the way that they got it, right? Instead of having to do which at the beginning it was so difficult, and we all know that. Even understanding when they were able to get their appointment. And I got so many calls from people saying like, thank you, because we were sharing that number everywhere we went. Like your call if you don't know how to do it, if you're having concerns, because people couldn't be there at 11 when the appointments opened up or whatever that may be, right? And so that and people feeling comfortable once they were going into the vaccination sites, which I'm incredibly grateful for the work that the county did with that, where people were like, oh my God, it was actually fun. Like people were like doing pom-poms and all of this stuff in South County. But it's all of these different things that really created a level of comfort, which at the moment may have seemed silly, right? But it really, everybody's going through such a hard time that these little things, it makes a big difference. And I think that having leaders that understood that across the board and in different levels was crucial in order for us to be able to get high vaccination rates, get people to understand why testing was important, and really protect themselves.
Yeah, definitely another great testament of the teamwork that we see here in South County.
Moni, I wanted to just kind of say that if you noticed, most of us that are elected officials now in South County or former field representatives. And so I think we all went into that mode. I mean, I know I did, and I know, you never stop being a staffer and really connecting the dots. And because all of us, I mean, think about it, all of us we're rooted in government, but from community, right? And so we understand this is not, I often joke, and Serge knows this, that I always tell, like, I was the field rep on the Tijuana River Valley 30 years ago, which is really embarrassing to say that we're still addressing this issue, right? But so I think that and in combination, us being able to really think outside the box, I think what we learned from the pandemic, what we have often, I was I was president of the board of Southwestern College during that time before I got elected to the county. And I remember we kept fighting to try to get computers for everybody. But magically, as soon as this happened, we were able to find computers for everybody. And so I think if anything, what we had to take from the pandemic and from the last couple of months of the work that we've done together is that removing barriers is not just something that we say in the work that we do, when we're giving speeches. It's really, we're going to have to help our teams and the bureaucracies understand that business as usual no longer is acceptable, because there's too much. And so when you think about the fact that the millions and millions of dollars that for the first time we were handing out or sharing, right, and partnering with everybody on for the county, we started thinking differently, right? We actually had a town hall asking the community, what is it that you actually need, right? And so having Chair Fletcher and myself on the COVID subcommittee, both of us, really looking at things from different lenses, and obviously my assembly member, helping me and helping each other make sure that we were doing the right thing for our communities. But again, I really think it's rethinking how government works and really making it work for everyone, and not taking, we can't do that as acceptable anymore. I think it's the strength of South County and of who we are and the work that we're doing. And we have to make sure we don't forget that as we're moving forward. We can't get caught up in the bureaucracy anymore. It's not okay.
Yes, definitely. That field rep button automatically goes on. What's the saying? Once a staffer, always a staffer.
So, in IB, first I want to just thank Mike Bloomberg and the Bloomberg Foundation put together with the U.S. Conference on Mayors a really amazing sort of weekly series on addressing the pandemic with everyone from Dr. Fauci to President Obama. But, really with Johns Hopkins School of Public Health, really kind of dialed down on their and Harvard economic development sort of experts, really provided a template and a framework for trying to figure this out. And we immediately formed the Mayor's Task Force on COVID-19, and the economic development sort of business part of that was absolutely critical. But at the beginning of the pandemic, I kind of felt like it was Band of Brothers, Ardennes Forest. It was like the old telephone wire line, hold the line. And for us right away, it was grocery outlet, whatever they needed. Mark, the owner or manager of that, would call me, and it was like, get them whatever they want immediately. The same thing with our only memory care facility, residential facility. It was like that was all hands on deck, in partnership with the county, of course, to make sure they got PPE. I mean, we forget how hard that was, right? So thanks for reminding me. Like the little things that we had to deal with are huge. And then as we got the money, I'm going to thank South County Economic Development Council, who were always on the phone with us to answer technical questions, how to make things work with getting our businesses money. But I'll give you 3 examples of how that worked. A really important dentist practice. Proudly showing off when they opened all the air filtration system they got from the local money that went to the cities for businesses. Number 2, the IB Optometrist. Again, these are businesses that employ a lot of people, right, and serve a large part of the community. Again, they opened and they kept everybody safe. They had all kinds of PPE and air filtration systems. That was great. And then I'll just point out the Coronado Brewery, one of our largest employers. That gives you an idea of how small IB is. And they got funding. They expanded to the parking lot. That's now permanent. And I think we learned to move a lot quicker and realize that we don't have to stop because of the pandemic. We can eliminate bureaucracy and make things happen to benefit our residents and our businesses quickly. And that helps money flow because, our communities, as I think people point out, don't have a lot of patience for bureaucracy, and they expect to be on the phone helped immediately. So, and again, it was a team effort. And I know that I sort of think my pandemic COVID-19 buddy, Mayor Alejandra Sotelo-Solis, who I know I would call all the time to ask for when I needed help. On the weekends, it didn't matter when it was. I think it was on New Year or Christmas. I would call. Thank you, Alejandra. I appreciated that. So anyway, and it was a really, really a team effort. But I do want to thank the Rural South County Economic Development Council. You guys are always really, really helpful. And we're always like, if we don't know the answer, call South County Economic Development Council. They'll know. They can help us figure it out. So anyway, thanks.
Thank you, Mayor Dedina. We definitely have a small but mighty team. So and so we'd like to commend everybody at the office from our South County EDC who did just get into that mode and were a great resource. So thank you to Jim, Efrain, Alejandra, the team. We're going to move on to the next question. The American Rescue Plan Act has brought funding to our local communities to assist residences, businesses, and jurisdictions cope with loss associated with the pandemic. How can businesses engage with the cities and counties on these programs? So maybe if we can have 1 or 2 panelists comment on this. Mayor Solis?
All right, I'll jump right in. How about that? So when we initially got our money, as I mentioned, we did the 200,000. But what we're looking at right now is helping to build our relationship with our Chamber of Commerce and how the permit process here for the outdoor dining is taking place. And so we're really excited. I mean, we didn't get trillions and trillions of dollars. We've got $18.6 million. We've got 9 million in the bank already, and we're hoping to get that second check in January. But the first part too is making sure that we've helped to streamline the processes. We've gone online with several of our permitting processes. We've waived fees for we called it the CTOP, the COVID-19 Temporary Outdoor Permit, and our ARROW program, Outdoor Right of Way program. And luckily we had that program before COVID-19, and not a lot of businesses had taken us up on the offer. So when COVID-19 hit, it was like, oh, I remember you guys mentioning this program, and all we did was, hey, fill out the paperwork, and we waived the fees, and they were able to have their outdoor dining facility. And so I think it's just refining those efforts and just being able to say, hey, how can we help you? The other thing too is, as elected officials, listening to the constituency that needs the help. And if it's getting the application in hand to the manager or having just a phone call and listening to what the need is of that small business, I think is essential versus thinking that, oh, they need an online app. That's what's going to help them. Maybe that's what is needed, but that's why I think it's crucial to have the relationship with the South County EDC as well as our Chamber of Commerce. And, you know, whether you have any TODs or business improvement districts, I think just being able to have those conversations truly, both formally in these settings, but also to in intimate settings by walking and ordering and supporting those businesses, because there was a lot of struggle. So I think just having the balance, I think, amongst all those efforts. And so $18.6 million, we've allocated $9 million. And actually, we are looking at having a second community conversation about the second $9 million and how we're going to focus on that. And we would invite our South County EDC partners to join us as we discuss. We've discussed entry-level employment readiness programs. We've talked about pipeline to good labor, jobs, and apprenticeship programs, as well as, you know, how people may want to start up a small business. Again, all impacting climate action, so green jobs, lots of things. So we've got 19 million or 9 million. I'm giving myself more money, I wish, but we still have conversations that we still want to have.
That's great. Can we hear from the county?
If I can unmute myself, yes, of course. You know, I think one of the things that we did, I mean, obviously there is resources that were specific, particularly to ARPA, to be able to help our small business communities. The loans that we were able to provide. I think, you know, there was $33 million of support for small businesses and nonprofits that were impacted by COVID. We heard loud and clear from our folks about how it wasn't really enough to really help support some of the businesses that traditionally are not part of, you know, that are not used to being able to support some of this. And so I think we've gotten really creative in trying to figure out how we make sure that we are true partners. And I will say that the reason why we introduced the Office of Economic Prosperity and Community Development was really to look at that. That's really, we're creating a hub so that we're able to move forward and work together so that we are regionally looking at what the needs are, and also taking into consideration, you know, our binational community. I think many of you know that the impact on our small businesses in the area, particularly San Isidro, right? 290 businesses closed because of the pandemic. And, you know, I always say to folks, when we're talking about business, it's not like the the building or what it's really like the people who work there, right? They won't have access to healthcare. They don't have jobs. And so one of the things that we did is make sure that people have access to, through our APRA allocation, to food, access to food and things of that nature. And so what I will say and continue to say is that we're going to continue to have more of these grants, but I think our job is to make sure that our chambers of commerce know, and I've been really working closely with many of them in our communities to make sure that it's not only the overregulation at times, but also what else do they need, right? What else can we help them with? We help with PPE, we help with a couple of other different things, but as we're moving forward, how do we make sure that we are true partners in that process? And so a lot of business relief opportunities are out there, and we're going to continue to push for that.
Because I think this is an important point. Sure. So that money we just got from ARPA, we approved we're a smaller city, so we didn't get 18 million, we got 6-something million, but that's a huge amount for us. Basically 100% of that money is going to go in the hands of businesses that are going to be building back better, right? Like we're going to be hiring folks to invest in a new senior center or upgrading our senior center, the community center, sports park, new fields for soccer and sports at Veterans Park. So there's going to be quite a bit of money flowing out of South County, obviously, into the hands of local businesses who are going to be working on those projects, number two, and then creating all kinds of new jobs. And with that money, we're actually putting money into the opening of a new Suncoast grocery co-op. I think it may be the first co-op market that'll be in South County. So that's amazing. $500,000 to go into building improvements, sort of like our own mini redevelopment, but they expect to create 42 jobs. So, that investment, it's outflow. And when the council asked, when can we get the money going? I was like, let's get it going tonight. Like, can we start the work? So the faster we move, the more people we put to work, the more we can build back better. And I love the idea of we're all contributing to that and making that slogan actually work. So it's awesome.
That's great. We're going to move on to the next question. Access to resources such as housing and internet, such have been a particular focus for many of our communities, particularly during this pandemic. How are you working with providers to ensure we are proactively addressing any underserved populations? And let's go ahead and kick it off with Assemblywoman Gonzalez.
It's a great question. I mean, that is one of, I think in particular, internet access became such an obvious equity issue during the pandemic when all of our schools expected our children to learn at home, quite frankly. And I know everybody on this call at some point hustled to try to get somebody a hotspot or an iPad or some way to be able to Zoom from home. And what we realized is at the state is enough talking about broadband access. It's time to really sit down and do something about it. And so I'm proud of what we've been able to do this year, which, I mean, this has been my entire time in the legislature, which is now 9 years. We've been talking about broadband access. We finally put our money where our mouth is and are going to invest in it. But we're going to this as well. I actually was talking to AT&T on Monday, and we were talking about access areas. I live in City Heights, and I was telling them how I can't use my cell phone inside my house. I can't use internet if more than 3 people are on it. And so I have access, but the quality of access sometimes our communities have are still substandard. So I think we're going to continue to push on that. Obviously, the cost of housing continues to rise. This is an issue for working families throughout the South Bay and something that we're going to have to continue to work on. So I think what I said early on in the pandemic is these are all issues that we've known about, right? And we've been kind of trying to bang the drum about our communities on the statewide level. Well, suddenly there were some middle-class communities facing the same kind of challenges we face, whether it was eviction or whether it was internet access or some of the challenges that we're used to, childcare, all of these things that kind of our daily lives or we've worked with over the years. And so because of that, which is a good thing, we have a lot of legislators who are like looking to us and saying, okay, what can we do? What else can we do? Is this enough? It's never enough. There's a lot of money out there, as we've heard, and utilizing that money. And I will point this out, and I think it was kind of alluded to by Serge, or Mayor Dedina. It's really hard not to call our colleagues by their first name, but I know we shouldn't. And Supervisor Vargas and Mayor Sotelo-Solis, and I'm sure the Councilwoman feels the same, is we've been told like there isn't money for all these things forever, right? Oh, we'd like to, but that's really expensive. How do we do it? And suddenly, oh, there's a pandemic and we can get a lot of money out. So it's that expectation, I think, that we're going to continue to see funding in our communities that actually help our communities thrive long term. Rebuilding infrastructure. Build Back Better doesn't just mean throwing some money somewhere. It's actually creating community infrastructure, broadband infrastructure, the things that we need in order to lift up our communities in an equitable standpoint. And I think as we move forward too, the one thing that we really have to concentrate on is that equity question. It's great that people kind of threw a bunch of money out there and it was split up. The truth is we have decades of neglect that we need to take on. And that means we need additional money in certain areas that, although we appreciate the funding right now, that we're going to need additional funds coming. It's not going to be that easy to kind of sign us off.
Thank you. I'd like to hear on a local level from our Councilwoman, Andrea Cardenas.
Of course. Well, I think there's many things, but number one, I want to acknowledge that I have had the honor to really grow up seeing a lot of all three of these women navigate the system and learn from them, and our mayor in Chula Vista as well. And something that I've learned from all three of them is, well, four with Mary, it's ask the question. The worst thing that can happen is no, right? And so we continue, we saw how all of a sudden, because it became an issue for people outside of our community, it was like, oh, now it's real because now I understand it. And I think that's what the assembly member was just conveying. And it is, we all had a reaction to it. We a lot of our measures are extremely reactionary, where we were handing out hotspots and whatnot. But how are we going to address this on the long term? And it's not going to die down once people are like, oh, we're good now, right? Because we're not. Again, these are issues that have been with us for a very, very long time. I mean, I remember since I was a kid, are still happening, right, in our community. And I think part of that is making those demands and asking people to do better when we're talking about housing, which is such a big problem, a crisis, not only in our region, but across the board. We need to be partnering with providers so that it's not just building housing, but building housing that has stable and good internet, right? Like all of these different things, they need to be looked at on a holistic level to really start providing our folks, our communities with the quality of life that they need, so that we can meet that standard that they deserve, that we all deserve. And we're trying to do affordable housing, we're trying to do that, but it doesn't work if we're not also providing the services that are going to kind of magnify what that is providing. It doesn't help having an affordable housing project that's really far from the library, for example, if the internet doesn't work, like it's all of these little things that need to be taken into consideration. And I think our role is really to push the envelope and ask the questions and be very firm in what the needs of our communities are, and not just kind of take the first offer, right? Like I want to get, I think Mayor Sotelo-Solis would tell me, I want to get the La Jolla option first, right? Like I want to hear what that is, and why are you giving me something different? It's the same concept, and we just need to move through it with that consciousness and making sure that all the other young leaders that are elevating and whatnot have that same mentality, because I know everybody here does, but we need to continue pushing through, right? We can't make it easy for our communities to not have an equitable life.
Thank you. We're down to our final 2 minutes of a panel, but I do want to make sure we get in a binational question. So as a binational region, we are faced with unique opportunities and challenges other communities are not. How can businesses and communities work together to ensure we maintain continuity of operations through future challenging times? So if we could have like a 30-second comments, that would be great.
Can I start off with that one? Let me just tell you that I think what we need to do is elevate our binational workers. We talk about the binational community, but we don't talk about the power of our binational workers and what they have done to sustain this community through this pandemic. And we need to do better by them. We need to protect them, and we need to make sure that they have the opportunities that they need to move forward. I think it behooves the business community and the region as a whole. And I am absolutely committed to continue to do that work. 30 seconds.
Just from my end, I think all of our ends, what we learned is we are all ambassadors for our region. That Mexico City and Washington operate theoretically, but the border works because we make it work. And those relationships are more important than ever. And that during this leaderless time at the national capitals, when it comes to the border, we made that relationship work. We did whatever we could to get across the border. And thank you, Supervisor Vargas. The vaccine diplomacy was genius, right? Like that stuff helps. It's been harder than ever to work on the border, and it's never easy. But you guys, we all work together to make that work and show that we think it's a priority. And we have to keep making work. And I told the new council, I said, dude, you can have your parties again. Like, we just need to see each other to work things out, because you don't do it on Zoom. You solve the problem when we're together. And we like hanging out with each other. So that's what makes it fun.
And I would just ask Monica add that we just have to show that it's a fluid region. People who aren't from the South Bay or from California don't understand it. So continuing to be the ambassadors, as Serge said, as the mayor said, and then as supervisor said, like, these are our people that are all in the area. And each one of our municipalities and even counties, we have sister cities in the Baja Cali or in Latin America. So to show that the fellowship and the economic development ties and just overall communication doesn't just stop at that line. So really creating that, bigger conversation.
Thank you. And I know that everybody on this panel, that you are all our binational champions. So thank you for that. Thank you for joining us today on the elected officials panel. And now we're going to move over to our South County Economic Development Council Chair, Willie Armas, who will present our next award. Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And U.S. Bank is proud to sponsor this year's Outstanding Corporate Citizen Award. And the Outstanding Corporate Citizen Award honors a citizen or business that has made a major contribution to the South County through their business or organization. This year, the Outstanding Corporate Citizen Award is being presented to Chris Van Gorder of Scripps Health for the tremendous effort and the team at Scripps Health for putting forth and ensuring our communities were protected and served throughout the pandemic. Scripps Health and their team continue to ensure our health and safety during immeasurable difficulty to themselves. It is with great honor to introduce Chris and present him with the Outstanding Corporate Citizen Award for this year. Chris?
Well, thank you very much. And on behalf of Scripps Health and our hospitals in Chula Vista and Mercy San Diego, I'm very honored and proud to accept this. But I do so really on behalf of the frontline staff that served our community 24/7 for the last really 2 years now with our COVID pandemic, but also very, very busy hospitals with all the other traumas and illnesses and other issues that we take care of. I also want to thank the business community. When we had to basically shut down, or we had over 600 COVID patients in our hospitals at the time. Today we have about 100. The community rallied and supported our healthcare providers. A lot of the businesses dropped by food and took their efforts out to recognize the challenge and the trauma that the healthcare workers were going through. I can't tell you how much that meant to our entire organization, but certainly all of those, what I would call our first responders, the folks that were working in the emergency department, the intensive care units and others that were severely impacted. And to this day, we have people that are caring for patients basically in spacesuits to be able to care for themselves and protect themselves as well. So the business community really stepped up, and I want to thank all of you. That need, by the way, still exists today, and I'm not asking for anything, but it is interesting as time has gone on and we try to get back to a new normal. The thanks in some cases has actually turned into anger. It is amazing how many patients that we have coming into the hospital not willing to comply with the safety requirements, not in some cases being tested and diagnosed with COVID with a positive test and then denying that COVID exists and then taking it out on the staff. So we still have challenges that we're going to have to deal with and probably for some time to come. But again, it's those employees on the front line, all the way through to the folks that got the supplies that were virtually non-existent at some point during the pandemic. Everybody rallied to do one thing and one thing only, and that was to take care of every patient that came in to our hospitals that needed our care. And congratulations to South County. Your vaccination rates are the envy of everybody at this point in time. And I know that was very challenging, but a lot of you rallied around our elected officials and others to make sure we had the vaccination sites and created the access to all the folks that they could from South County. And so we're proud of everything you did in the South County to help protect our community as well. So again, on behalf of everybody at Scripps, and particularly our South County hospitals and clinics, thank you very much for this honor.
Thank you so much, Chris, and thank you for all you and your team have done. So I just wanted to jump on and say thank you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you to the South County Economic Development Council. I am so excited to have the opportunity to speak with you. Organizations like the South County EDC that support economic development in our communities are so essential. And since the pandemic, they've been more essential than ever. So thank you for all you do for small businesses and for so many people in our binational region. I know it's been a really difficult year and a half, and you all stepped up and continued serving our community even as you were worried about your own family. And I and so many others are so grateful. I'm happy to be back in San Diego after a busy couple of weeks in Washington. As many of you heard, we just passed the Bipartisan Infrastructure Bill, which will provide $550 billion in new funds to repair highways and bridges, internet access, and help our communities recover from the devastating impacts of climate change. This is a once-in-a-generation investment. It includes the largest investment in public transit ever, the largest investment in clean water ever, and the largest investment in passenger rail since the creation of Amtrak. California alone is due to receive over $44 billion, and we have an opportunity to receive even more because nearly every portion of this bill also includes a competitive grant program based on the projects that will have the greatest economic impact. It's a big step forward, but we're not done. Next, we need to pass the Buildback Better Act, which, as you know, includes my big priority of support for childcare and universal pre-K. Like I've said from the beginning, we need to rebuild and upgrade our infrastructure and invest in families and children. We need a recovery that's equitable, and getting the Buildback Better Act across the finish line is a crucial step in making that recovery a reality. The investments in these bills will be life-changing for hundreds of thousands of families, workers, and small business owners in my district. I'm so honored to be working side by side with all of you and with organizations like the South County EDC. Thank you all for everything that you're doing.